So welcome, Anna. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for saying yes. And I just want to start the conversation by sharing something that I've experienced yesterday through your profile, actually, as I was connecting with your content and your profile, just preparing for this conversation. I was in a bit of a slump, and then I was preparing for the conversation and looking through your profile, watched a couple of videos, and something unlocked within me. Like just the way you were, like, so authentic, so simplistic in the way you were sharing. Something unlocked within me, and next thing you know, I'm on camera and I'm recording videos and I'm like back in my energetic flow. So I just wanted to share that and say thank you for, what you do and the way you share. And yeah, it's been very touching.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I haven't been on social media for the last couple of weeks as I've been in a time of transformation, moving house, dealing with the stress of uprooting my life in Sheffield and then moving to London. I put my business on pause a little bit for these 2 weeks as my LinkedIn profile got hacked and deleted 2 weeks ago. So I'm normally very consistent, like every day. And, when you slow down for a while and you stop, it's hard to get started again sometimes. But hearing the impact that it has on people, that your presence has on people, is so motivating. And I'm just about to get back into rebooting my LinkedIn and making my comeback today. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's really touched me.
Yeah, it actually, reminded me of, my also the way I show up and the way I create, and how these small little things, small little videos can like really touch someone. And
Mm.
oftentimes it goes unseen, unknown. But I would love to go deeper, just like dive right into it. You were sharing about, the transitioning period and more. Um, you shared basically about the dark night of the soul that you were going through. So I would love to go deeper into that, and if you would be open to share, what that was, how it transformed you, and like where you are now.
Yeah, great. I would love to share. So I'll go back in time a little bit just to give
Yeah.
some context. My spiritual creative journey started in my mid-20s. Before then, the only thing that I cared about was raving, drum and bass, and the sesh. I lived for that. Drum and bass was my first love and still is. And, that was the only thing that gave me meaning in this dark and desolate world. But obviously, that's a short term. It's a short term place of gratification. And I wasn't living as my authentic self in so many ways, like masking a load of trauma. Then I had a very messy spiritual awakening / time of depression and psychosis in my mid-20s. And that's when I realized that I was hungry for creativity and spirituality. And that's when I started exploring that path, and journaling, meditation, intentional use of psychedelics, sexuality, tantra, all of the good stuff that will change who you are at a fundamental level and help you heal your nervous system and actually write and create and believe in yourself. So I've been on that path for a long time, and I was a freelance copywriter during that time because I just wanted to make money in a way that was somewhat creative. And it was really good for a while, also stressful, but I worked with agencies, I was working with startup founders, working with people who were creating something in the world. And then I started getting inspired, realizing, yeah, the things that we buy matter and how we sell them matters. The ideas that we put out into the world matter. And then started going deeper in my spiritual journey, my creative journey, my artistic journey, went deeper with meditation. And when my mum died, I went all the way in. This was in 2022. I went all the way in on, right, okay, I want to build my art. I want to build my business. I want financial independence and creative liberation. because that's what she wanted and never quite got there. And I think it's what every woman wants in a way in this age where we can now have it. And so since that time, since 2022, I've been building, I've been doing the things, I've been taking the leaps, and I started downloading the core ideas for my current business, my message alignment framework, which is essentially around getting in touch with who you are on a soul level and understanding where you're not in alignment with that and dealing with it compassionately and experimenting with making those changes in your marketing content, in your creative output, in the way that you are in the world, in the way that you see yourself. And so I've been living that journey myself, like looking at where am I not in alignment yet? Where is my marketing perpetuating this old system? Where am I trying to just appeal to people's fear rather than speaking to their greatness and their desire? And I've been getting really honest with myself over the last few years and seeing what I need to see at every opportunity and listening to the whispers of my soul, meditating, spending time in nature, journaling, and just doing it. But I still think that even when you're on the path of alignment, sometimes the universe just likes to speed it up a bit. Uh, and hence, you might have a dark night of the soul. Your life might completely unravel for a spell for some time. And that's exactly what happened to me in September. Like things were going all right. You know, my business was pretty stable and my clients were doing well, but I was still doing a lot of ghostwriting for people. You know, I was still doing a lot of the writing for them. And I was dimming my spirituality a bit in my business. And then I had this dark night of the soul, which was triggered by an absolute disaster romantic liaison. It turned us both inside out, actually. So it was definitely destined. And
Love
it
it.
was really beautiful because we were able to like we still talk about it and check in with each other, which is really beautiful. But it was like I had like PTSD symptoms for like a whole month or 2 months. Then I got called to jury service. Who gets called to jury service? Hardly anybody, but it happened right at this time. And I was freaking out. I was like, how am I going to pay my rent? I've got to take time out from this business that is already struggling to now go and sit in a courtroom. And I just
It's
had to go and
mandatory, right? Or you cannot
it's
refuse it.
mandatory. Yeah,
Oh.
it's you can delay it, but then I was like, well, maybe now is actually the best time just to get it done, get it dealt with. So I went into full surrender mode. You know, I was literally like, okay, I trust the universe because I've been in this position enough times by now. I've been in way worse situations than this, but it still felt painful and frightening. I go to the jury service. I got excused after 4 days. Normally, you're there for 2 weeks, and by a complete fluke. I was like, okay, I'm ready to get back to building my business and appreciate the opportunity I have now. When I realized that I was avoiding using energy work in my sessions, I was afraid to claim that and to
Mm.
really step into it. I was afraid to channel in front of people. And I guess afraid of my creative expression in some ways. And so that's what that time helped me see. And then like starting this year, I'm making a commitment to go all the way and hide from my gifts less.
Mm. Mm. Wow. Yeah, what a beautiful journey from drum and bass into this spiritually aligned goddess.
They're very much aligned, drum and bass and spirit. I still feel that way when I'm on a dance floor. 100%.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, interesting. This year, the theme for my year is alignment. Like I chose a theme for my
Mm.
year as alignment, and it's so interesting that like your offering is one around the alignment, and the journey that you're on also like seems like it just keeps realigning. um I want to ask about something you mentioned, about deep listening. I wonder, like, how does that look like in your life, and how does one truly deeply listen and get the guidance and get the alignment?
Great question. Slowing down and creating space in your head. It's as simple as that, isn't it? Um, I started getting so many more downloads when I started taking meditation seriously in 2022. I'd been flirting with it, learning about it, going to the Buddhist center, doing the intro courses. So it wasn't like I wasn't meditating, but everything changed for me after I went to a retreat. And then one of the insights and action steps I had after that retreat was buy a meditation cushion and meditate for 20 minutes every morning and commit and do it as a daily ritual. And there's just something about making a solid intention to really go deeper with something that will result in that. Like the way that we commit to things with the full force of our being is so powerful. And so I happened to find a meditation cushion at the charity shop opposite my house for £4 the day I got back. So I still, I put it in its rightful place, started sitting down every morning, and it's creating that space. You're literally creating space in your being, and you're relaxing your whole body. So your nervous system's relaxed. When your nervous system is relaxed, you can receive things. You're not clenching, you're soft, you're open, your mind is clear. And sometimes things just come through. Another practice that I have for downloads is writing them down. I think, when you write down anything, you're underlining it and you're saying to your consciousness, this is valuable. Thank you for presenting me with this. And obviously it's easier not to forget them and then take action on them. So I have a WhatsApp group with myself called Downloads, and I write them down in there. And I've even started doing this thing where I put a little emoji on them if I've taken action on them.
Wow, that's amazing.
It works. Yeah, I got that from Tree Carr. If you follow her, she's an amazing witch and writer. She has one with the universe where she records synchronicities and things that she's grateful for. So the universe sends more of them.
Yeah. I want to go back into like making a solid commitment and like intention. Like being me, I can sometimes make a very solid commitment and intention. And also being me, I love going with the flow. So so it's constant like kind of picking up and dropping, picking up and dropping. I mean, there are sometimes like solid prolonged periods of like, let's say meditation where I'm very committed, but then there are ebbs and flows. So I wonder how does that frame of like solid commitment and like the flow of life work in your experience?
It's really important to dance between the two, isn't it? To dance between flow and structure, the divine feminine and the divine masculine. I know that if I go too far into structure and routine and discipline and scheduling in every single moment in my day and having a 10-step morning routine, that I start to wilt like a flower that's not getting water. So yeah, flow is so important, and following the moment. So I tend towards flow. Like I love being in feminine energy and following inspiration. And I think what I try and do is just check in with myself, like check, am I getting enough of these different things? So, I might be flowing through life, but then I notice, oh, I'm not actually meditating right now. And then weaving that in an organic way, like, oh, okay, well, maybe I can just try and clear my head while I'm having this shower and just feel this shower right now and then get your fix of presence and open attention that way.
Mm.
At the moment, I'm feeling the call to have a disciplined morning routine again after being in this transitional moving house moment. And now I'm settled and my stuff's where I need it to be. I am feeling the call to, okay, I want to wake up, light a candle, say a prayer straight away and meditate, and then free write, do the morning pages. Because I know that if I do those things first thing in the morning, that will be the foundation for where I want to go next.
Mm. I love that you're saying that because it makes me feel better as well. Like, also, like, I guess I'm navigating it similarly, but maybe it's because I've been, like, for the most part of my life, I've been, like, identifying more with my masculine. Um, like, whenever, like, I have these feminine ebbs and flows, and um, like, I would judge myself, like, that I'm not consistent. But, like, hearing you sharing that, and me through my own experience, I'm beginning to learn that, oh, it's actually my feminine essence, and it's okay, and there's different ways of approaching it, as you're saying, like maybe having a mindful moment in the shower, and keep checking back in, and kind of realigning. I
There's an
wanna.
insight.
Yeah.
There's I've been working through a wound in my masculine recently, and I discovered that I found any form of consistency and action very challenging for a lot of my life, like chronic procrastination and fear, and a fear of structure and a fear of systems. And it's been so important for me to work through that and to realize that that judgment towards yourself, like, I can't do this is too hard, why do I never do it, but it's actually stopping us from getting in the systems and getting in the routine. And that celebrating, nurturing the masculine is so important, and honoring, hey, we did this today, that's awesome, let's do it again tomorrow. And we're so hard on ourselves, and I think it's a massive wound inside that masculine aspect of us.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah. You said something in one of your videos, resistance is a gateway to your next level. I thought that was so powerful, and I could, like, even, like, picture it as a metaphor. How do you relate to resistance now?
Oh my God, my resistance relationship has changed my life completely, like following that path, because I was a gifted kid at school. I was put in that bracket, and and then I really struggled at university. I was a, small fish in a big pond. I went to the University of Cambridge, and I didn't have a work ethic because I'd never had to before then. And in recent years, I started learning about the neuroscience of that, how gifted kids are used to being praised for their accomplishment that they haven't had to work for. So they just stay in their comfort zone. Whereas kids who maybe get middling or less, who have to really work for something, they get praised for their effort. And so they learn how to develop a growth mindset, which is so useful in life. If you have a fixed mindset about your abilities, you tend to stay in your comfort zone. When you've got a growth mindset, you embrace challenge. And so I've had to rewire myself in so many ways to get through any form of challenge. Like, I used to find leaving the house dysregulating, or packing for a trip completely dysregulating. Really had to rewire my nervous system to do basic things in so many ways. And when it comes to resistance, procrastination, perfectionism, it's been the biggest struggle of my life to rewire that. And I used to procrastinate so bad. When I was a new freelance copywriter, I procrastinated on a job for 3 days. It was the first time that I'd ever secured a really good day rate. So that's a big opportunity, right? And I procrastinated this job for 3 days and almost cost myself the project, definitely cost myself future projects. And that's just how bad it was, just being stuck in the freeze response on really important things. And then gradually over the years, I've used dance, meditation, diet, hydration, getting outside to rewire my nervous system and have rituals and routines in place around work. I use timers, I dance before I work on things. And I'm also a lot more careful about what I say yes to these days. So I'm not constantly overwhelmed with tasks and overstimulated. So yeah, it's been a real journey to heal this chronic relationship with resistance. And now I'm at a point where I know that I can do things if I have the time and I have the resources and I have the motivation. And it's an amazing place to be. But it's so important to learn how to get past our own resistance, because there's a Stephen Pressfield quote who wrote "The War of Art: Resistance points to our true north." Like we resist the things that are the best for us, that are the most productive, the most vulnerable, the most creative. If you
Why do
feel,
you think is that?
I think it's because there's a part of us that actually cares, and we care about it. So we want it to go well. So we want it to be good. And so that puts pressure on it. And so that can create resistance. And I also think it's because creativity changes who we are at a fundamental level, right? When you create a poem, when you learn about yourself through your own art, you become someone new in some important yet subtle way. And perhaps our ego just wants to resist that change.
Mm, mm. So, talking about all these ways, to kind of overcome resistance or be with it or embrace it, um, like there's a lot of kind of self-care and self-regulation that has to go. Like you have to learn different tools and different perspectives. And one of the things you shared about self-care being this pathway to connection to the universe, and I thought that was a interesting frame to look into if you would like to share.
Yes, thank you. I'm playing with that idea right now. So I've been observing in myself and in people around me how we're conditioned to be always looking outwards, chasing external validation, building our lives based on what we think society wants from us, thinking about other people before ourselves. And then we deprioritize ourselves and we put ourselves on this like place of inferiority. Or some people put themselves on a pedestal of superiority, but it's still masking inferiority underneath it all. And I think that since we are the vessel through which we experience consciousness, when you turn your attention inwards and care for yourself, get to know yourself, prioritize yourself and your needs, you're bringing your awareness in towards yourself. And so the consciousness that flows through you is better maintained, and you have more access to your own consciousness because you're placing your attention there. And then this beautiful thing happens where you're placing more attention on yourself and your consciousness and your body and your awareness. And so more consciousness and life force energy can flow through you. And then you are able to share that energy with other people. So that's how you end up doing things that people think are cool, doing things that help other people. That's how you end up being that vital, fun person at the gathering, or being there for someone because you've topped yourself up. You've brought your attention inwards, and then you're able to be an excellent vessel of consciousness for people around you. And so, yeah, I think self care is a lot bigger than face masks and bubble baths, but they are definitely important.
Yeah. Yeah, so self-care as a way kind of in and again, like for me, I think about through the lens of alignment, and meditation as well has been like a huge thing for me. And when I'm listening to you share, um now we're kind of swimming in the same water of the same, consciousness, awareness, and we're throwing all these words. And I wonder, for people maybe that are not as deeply into this kind of work, and maybe about myself a couple of years ago or more, that I'd be listening to, and I'm like, what are they actually talking about? But it's this like experiential wisdom that comes through experience that I discovered. Um, so maybe in the past I would listen, and I would hear those words thrown around, and maybe they wouldn't mean that much to me, and until I went through my deep spiritual experiences through meditation or plant medicine, to kind of feel the truth of it. But meditation, definitely, somehow I feel like drawn to go back to meditation, because it's such a, like, maybe as a reminder for myself as well, it's such a powerful and potent tool to kind of tune ourselves. Like even this morning when I was sitting in the garden, I was like, I'll just close my eyes and meditate for 10 minutes. And it's like, it's incredible. Once we slow down and we tune in, it's almost like, this snow globe that gets shaken, and when we slow down, everything settles, and like everything is so clear, and it's like all these insights begin to drop in.
Mm.
And it's just, fuck, it's so easy, but it's so like counterintuitive when we're like on the go and we're on the move, and like our nervous system is out of whack, and it's just like, you like meditation is like the last thing that we want to do. And it's going back to that resistance, like, oh, we just like, I would just resist and resist and resist, and as soon as I overcome that resistance and I drop in, I'm like, oh fuck, why did it I was taking so long. It's like, it's so obvious, like everything is so clear, like, yeah.
Mm. The thing that I would love to say to people who don't meditate and don't use the words consciousness and awareness all the time is that I think at the beginning it's hard, because at the beginning you're used to just thinking thoughts all the time, because we've been so conditioned in the West and in the most of the societies that we hang out in to be doing something all the time, to be always thinking about the shopping list, about what's on TV, about some time where you said something at a party and people didn't laugh, and we just, that's how my mind used to be, just playing that stuff in a loop over and over again. And then we wonder why we're anxious and depressed and lacking in confidence, when we're just allowing the mind to say whatever it wants to us over and over again. And the mind is, the network of neurons that we have in the brain. It's not necessarily the be all and end all of our existence. So this is what I think you discover on the spiritual path, is that there's something deeper than the mind, which is consciousness itself, and God knows what that actually is. But and so the mind is like the brain, and the brain will generate, it will fire electrical signals in a kind of random and often unhelpful way. And with meditation, you get to choose which thoughts you think. With affirmations and positive self-talk, you get to choose, actually, I don't want to obsess over whether my boss thinks I'm doing a good job or not. I want to focus on the fact that I showed up for that presentation yesterday. You start choosing the thoughts that you say to yourself, and that's how you change your experience. I wish more people knew that it was just like that, and that we get to choose what we think.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, and I guess through what I was sharing, I guess what I also wanted to offer is, when I look at you, when I look at myself, and there are other people, like there's this vibrant aliveness, there's this life force, this smile and joy and just radiance. And I guess if you don't know these words, consciousness or whatever, like you don't resonate. It's like, for me, the way I see it, it's like, look at these women, look at these people that are the most joyous and magnetic and radiant, and just get inspired, by their lifestyle and the way they're moving through life. And yeah, I guess this is how I've been kind of learning, like not necessarily through words and like concepts, but it's like, this person has something about them. Let me see what they're doing. Oh, they're actually journaling. Okay, let me try journal, see how that feels. So I thought that's kind of, for me, it's like a very easy access into something.
Absolutely, taking inspiration. And I think one of the biggest traps that stops people doing that is the trap of comparison, where, and I used to do this so badly, but you look at people who are doing well, who look good, who are glowing, and you're like, oh, I can't stand her. And how does she have all of this? And I don't have any of that. And I wish I could be someone like that. And the example that I always give is like, at the sort of start of this journey at festivals, I used to look at women who were hula hooping and just feel so jealous and just feel like, oh, I wish I could be that kind of woman who had so much confidence and moved her body in front of people and wasn't afraid to be seen. And I was really bitter. And then I realized I can buy a hula hoop and I can learn how, and I can go on YouTube and I can allow myself to do little hula hoop moments in the garden. And eventually you do become that woman who has the confidence to hula hoop at the festival, but you have to make it happen. And I think, that's the trap that people need to get out of, is just looking at everyone else and wishing they had it. It's like, go and make it happen for yourself. Make your version of it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you offering that shadow side. I'm like very airy fairy and very positive. So my natural instinct is to like take out the positives out of people and like see beauty. Um, I guess I had that when I was a teenager as well, maybe like more kind of like jealous and judgmental. Um, so yeah, it's a beautiful frame. Talk to me about creativity and sexual expression.
So I want to share that you and I met through an incredible writing group that we're both in, Eric Godsey's Dharma Artists Collective, that we're in the same group who are doing Dharma sprints in the morning. And, we are spending time many mornings writing. And that's how we met. And it's a beautiful way to meet someone. And then I saw your Instagram and I kind of had this vibe from you already, from some of your shares. I was like, oh yeah, she's into pleasure and sensuality as well. Amazing. You can see it in someone. You can see it in a woman, in the way they walk in the world and the way that they choose pleasure, and they're not afraid to share it with other people in such a joyful way. So yeah, I would love to talk to you about creativity and sexual expression. And yeah, because for me, they both started blooming in my life around the same time, like after the time of psychosis and depression that I experienced. And, one of my ways out of that terrible dark hole, which lasted several years, was doing counseling and realizing how much sexual trauma I had and that I'd buried in a dark box, a black box of trauma, I used to call it, for 10 years. And I'd just been operating in the world like in this completely dysregulated, traumatized state, and I had no idea, getting into all sorts of trouble, disconnected from self completely. And so once I was stable after this complete breakdown, I was like, okay, now I want to actually heal. And I started tentatively going to things like, at the first conscious scene thing I ever went to was a cacao and ecstatic dance ceremony. And it was in this beautiful candlelit room off Broadway Market in Hackney. And I felt completely out of place. I felt like completely stiff in my body. But it was such a soothing atmosphere, and the space was held so beautifully. And it was my first time, I think, drinking cacao. And it was just nourishing. It just felt good, you know. And then that sparked off, okay, what else is there to go and experience? And in those kind of spaces, you know, people love to take the piss out of the conscious scenes and the spiritual scenes right now. And it's good because the spiritual ego needs to be kept in check. But I think it's also really important to say that those spaces change people's lives. And for me, that's certainly the case. Being around people who are being honest, who are communicating their needs, who are talking about their trauma, helps you realize that you're not alone in what you've been through, and that it's okay to express yourself. It's okay to sing if you're not already a good singer. It's okay to move your body however you want to. And then I think just all of these things together made me realize I'm not broken, and I want to liberate myself as much as possible. And I think they're linked. You know, it's like sex is an act of creativity when you're with someone in a space. Being sex by yourself can be an act of creativity if you choose to see it that way. And I think learning that creative energy is sexual energy, that they are linked, changed my life completely. You know, it's like the life force energy that seems to run through this universe is very sexy. It's very alive. And they are linked, you know, and it's like when you're working on a creative project with someone, sometimes you feel attracted to them just because it's so hot vibing with someone and making something with someone. And that's why co-workers often get attracted to each other, because they might be working together and it's fun to make something with someone. And they're so linked. And so as I started healing my sexual trauma, I also started working on my creative blocks. Like I used to see myself as a blocked writer, and I really held on to that identity for a long time. And then I started to let go of that and actually start allowing myself to write little poems and write little songs. And then it was kind of at the same time in the relationship that I was in with my ex-fiance, I wanted more from our connection that I wasn't getting. And so I started seeing a tantric coach and learning the basics of connecting to myself. And that's when a lot of things started to change for me, like how I thought about sex, how I thought about energy, how I thought about breath. And the more I go into this journey of making art and just enjoying being in a body, and specifically in a female body, and enjoying pleasure, savoring moments, breathing, taking the time to come back into presence throughout the day, life just feels more magical and you do feel more inspired.
Yeah, wow. Similarly, actually, my one of my first also kind of more conscious experience was through ecstatic dance, also in London, but it was in the park. But also, I remember just, it was profound. I the same way I felt out of place. I came down there, you know, everyone's free and moving and doing whatever the fuck they want to do, and I'm like, okay, I never danced sober in my life. And even drunk, I was very like insecure and very like kind of caved in. And I come there and start dancing, and it was just like it was like an exorcism. I went through these waves. I'm
Mm.
like, okay, maybe I can move a bit, and then contraction, and then I'm in my head processing like past insecurities, traumas around, myself and my body and how I move, and then I get a moment of like, ooh, I can dance. Ooh, it's okay, no one's watching. And then a moment of insecure. I'm even getting goosebumps as I'm saying, and then it's a contraction, and it was like this constant dance between contraction and expansion. And I was like literally having a therapy session in my head the whole time. But it was so, so profound. And ever since then, I went again. And then the more like I went, the more like I started opening up and blooming. And now it's just like, yeah, dance is actually one of my like big main practices to kind of get back into my body and into my energy and into my flow. And yeah, pleasure, sensuality. It's like I'm really beginning, like for me this season is very much about embracing my feminine and more like more of my dark feminine and my sensuality and my seductiveness. And it's also like it's been helpful to see other women out there, online, and the way they move and their magnetism and their radiance, and I'm like, oh, this is like how I want to be. So yeah, it's yeah, just like feminine, like just energy, once like really truly embodied, it's so magnetic. Like there's nothing we really need to do, we just attract, and it's magical. Like there's no need to kind of hustle through and try, and um yeah, so I'm just like really exploring that and stepping into that more for myself.
Oh, me too. It really is magnetism. I get free stuff all the time when I'm in that feminine, joyful energy. It's really the energy of receivership, because to be in that energy, you have the good sense to really be grateful for something and really look someone in the eyes and say, thank you. Thank you for giving me that free cream cake for no reason. Oh, it is so joyful. And the way the feminine moves, like the undulations, the snake hips, it feels like you're tapping into something so ancient, so beyond this reality. And I just had a thought while you were speaking that we've been dancing since before we were Homo sapiens, for sure. Like dance is so ancient, dancing and singing. And they are two of the things that people feel the most afraid to do while sober. I think that's
Hmm.
a crime. I think it's an absolute crime, the way that people feel like they can't just move their body however they want to, or sing or hum, and the ways that people have been shamed about their skill level. But it's not about skill level, it's about how it feels.
Mm, mm. Yeah. Yeah, another one of those things where I also feel like everyone should experience, and the liberation it creates. Mm.
I agree. Ecstatic dance is it's an institution. It's really a space. I've heard so many stories like the one you shared about having a kind of exorcism and releasing a lot of pain and stiffness and like maybe traumatic memories going through the mind just from one ecstatic dance, your first ecstatic dance experience. So yeah, it's incredible. One of my favorite things that came from me is I used to just want to stretch my body while talking to someone, but I'd end up just feeling like I was supposed to stand there and be really in one line. And now if I'm talking to someone, I'd like do lunges or move my hips if I want to. And then other people end up joining in, and everyone else gets a little bit more in their bodies because you're doing it.
Yeah, love that. I say like being a glitch in the matrix, everything is so like rigid, and like no one actually questions all these norms and how we should be and how we should behave. And, it takes one of us weirdos, to start doing like I'm the same, like at the airport, I will start stretching and moving and like Yeah, and it's interesting how it's seen as like unnormal, but actually it's so natural.
It feels good. And, it's good to stretch before you go and sit down for several hours.
Yeah. So talking around, dancing and moving and shifting our identity. Um, this is something you shared as well around like ways of shifting your identity to kind of start living the life that we want. I wonder if there's like anything else that you would like to share in that space around shifting our identity.
Mm. The main thing I want to say is that I think everything good in my life has come out of shifting my identity at one point or another. And I feel like the journey that I'm on now started because I decided I wanted to be an artist and that I would stop at nothing to heal my creativity and allow myself to taste that and to
Mm.
figure out how to make art from being completely creatively blocked to, okay, now I get on stage and read out poems and make videos and write songs, and all of the things that I wanted to do, that I dreamed of doing, now feel possible because I decided I want to be an artist, and then I broke down into tiny steps how to make that happen. And the label of entrepreneur, I've learned how to create high ticket offers, how to sell them, how to do marketing, how to hold a business together. All of the skills that you learn, came from I want to be independent and I want to be an entrepreneur. And identity determines how we show up in the world, how we speak about ourselves. And one of the most common traps that I see people being stuck in is speaking negatively about themselves to people around them, focusing on their flaws, focusing on everything they're not, speaking that out loud in spaces. Well, if you're the one saying that, then that's how everyone else is going to receive you because you're saying it. You're telling people how to treat you and who you are in everything you say. And I used to be so addicted to self-deprecation. I used to put everyone else on a pedestal around me and just assume that everyone knew better than me, and that that's just how things were. And that but I was keeping myself stuck in a loop of insecurity and feeling less than competent by saying that. So I think identity is everything. We are not fixed beings. We change constantly. We're always changing. And the more open you are to change, the faster you will change and get what you actually want.
Mm. Yeah, I love the meaning or the root of the word decide is to cut away.
Mhm.
And I think it's so powerful. When we make that choice, we cut away, we decide and we cut away all other, possibilities. Like we decide this is who I am or this is who I want to be. And then committing, to the steps forward to create that to birth that into life.
I love that. Yeah, I think about that a lot as well. I used to think, when I used to hear people say, yeah, you have to sacrifice if you want to be an artist, you have to, not be with friends all the time, and you need to spend time working on your art, and you need to make time for inspiration as well. And I used to think, oh, that sounds like too big a sacrifice. But then you realize how fulfilling it is to make something, and that actually it's maybe better to just go to the party for a bit and then leave and still see everybody, but not stay for the whole thing. And you start to find the joyful way to cut things off and stay committed to your decision. And it's it's such a better state for human beings. We want to feel focused on something. We feel happy when we're in the flow state more often and we're focused on something. So, yeah, I think deciding and cutting things away is pretty essential for our happiness.
Mm. Hmm. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I think we're good. We've covered a lot. I think there's been so many things that we've packed in. Just to kind of close it off and complete, is there anything you would like to share to complete? Maybe anything you didn't feel that you had time to express fully, or something you want to add on to?
I would just love to say that the journey towards like creative fulfillment and self-expression feels so freaking good when you let yourself do it. And I'm obsessed with my life right now. I'm obsessed with writing poems and getting more inspiration and being more present so I get more poems coming through. And I'm obsessed with doing something with that and building a business around that. My next business. It feels so exciting to me, and it's so amazing to realize like how many possibilities there are in this reality if you believe in yourself, if you let yourself do the thing, if you learn how to have a relationship with your resistance so your fear doesn't hold you back from doing hard things. And I really think that this journey, more people taking these steps to liberate themselves, is so important right now at this time in human history, when there are actual forces in positions of power that thrive when we are fearful and disempowered, and that creativity isn't just a nice to have, it is the essence of our being. And so reclaiming your power has never been more important, and that is what my work is devoted to, is helping people reclaim their creative power so they can create change in the world with it. And I'd love to share that I hold space for people who want to start that journey. I offer message alignment ceremonies, which are really powerful, energetic spaces for people to feel their soul. Like, who the hell are you? And what do you actually want when you're not thinking about the world around you? And what are the next steps that you can take right now to start that path, no matter how afraid and useless you feel, there is a path out of that. And that's what I help people find.
Mic drop. I love it. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Damon. It's been so lovely to chat with you today and go all the way into the depths with you.